everyone. You're listening to The Future of Food Is You, a production of the Cherry Bomb Podcast Network. I'm your host, Abena Anim-Somuah. And each week, I talk to emerging talents in the food world, and they share what they're up to, as well as their dreams and predictions for what's ahead. As for me, I'm the founder of The Eden Place, a community that's all about gathering people intentionally around food. I love this new generation of chefs, bakers, and creatives making their ways in the worlds of food, drink, media, and tech. Today's guest is Lisa Lee, founder of The Chi. The Chi is a wellness brand known for their signature flower teas and the belief in empowering people to feel more joy and inner calm. I recently tried one of the Chi's teas, and it was a wonderful way to start my morning and set intentions for the day. Lisa and I chat about the trip that inspired her to start drinking her flowers, how she finds moments of joy as a busy founder, and the ways that she incorporates her fashion experience into the brand's aesthetic. Thank you to Kerrygold and Walmart for supporting today's show. Kerrygold is delicious all-natural butter and cheese made with milk from Irish grass-fed cows raised on small, family-run Irish dairy farms. Kerrygold's farming families pass their craft and knowledge from generation to generation. This traditional approach is the reason for the rich taste of Kerrygold. You can enjoy delicious sliced or shredded Kerrygold cheddar cheese, available in mild or savory flavors. The shredded cheddar is perfect for those who love making mac and cheese. And now that grilling season is here, the cheddar slices will take any burger or veggie burger up a notch. There's also Kerrygold's classic salted butter in the gold foil. It's perfect for slathering on corn on the cob, always a summer fave. And the unsalted butter in the silver foil is an absolute must if you're turning sweet summer strawberries into strawberry shortcake. Visit KerrygoldUSA.com to find the Kerrygold retailer nearest you and lots of great recipes. Some of you might have seen this on my Instagram, but I have some big news. I was at the James Beard Foundation Media Awards this past weekend in Chicago and was presented with the Emerging Voice in Broadcast Media Award. I was shocked when I found out, to say the least. I've only been in the food world for a few years, and it's a huge honor to be recognized in this way. I thank the following folks on stage, but I just want to thank them again once more. The Cherry Bomb Podcast Network team, everyone at Kerrygold and Walmart for supporting this show, the Beard Foundation, my family and dearest friends, and especially my guests and all of you who listen to the show. This podcast means so much to me, and it's an honor to spotlight the next generation of change makers in this industry. This award is for all of us, truly. So here's to the future. Now, let's check in with today's guest. Lisa, thanks for joining us on the Future of Food Is You podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Amazing. So I always like to start off by asking everyone, where did you grow up and how did food show up in your life?
Absolutely. I feel like I grew up in a few different places, but mainly it's a northeastern coastal city called Dalian, which is about 8 hours northeast of Beijing, but it's very close to Korea. And it's this small coastal city where I had access to a ton of amazing seafood. I think I've always loved food, and I've always been very picky in terms of what I want to eat. I remember when I was little, and my grandma, I love her to death. She wasn't the most flavor-wise sophisticated cook. I just remember I refused to eat basically if it wasn't my favorite dish or things like that when I was little. So comes from a long way of just loving food.
What were some of the dishes that were irresistible to you that you always had to be eating?
Oh, I love this question. Lots of Chinese food, I feel like here in America are more southern, or even Shanghai, or dim sum is very popular. So where I'm from, it's Dongbei, which means northeast. It's much more rustic, and we're known noodle doughy things. Noodle is huge. Some of my favorites are noodle soups, and they're chunky udon takes, basically. So that's always my favorite. We also are very huge on dumplings. One classic mix filling is chives, shrimp, and pork, and they call it's 3 umami. It's the combination is incredible. Dumplings and noodles are my favorites, any kind. So that just expands outside of what I grew up with.
Are there restaurants in New York City right now that you could go to remember those feelings or feel the nostalgia when you're eating those dishes?
I wish there are more northern Chinese food here in the city, but I know there are a lot good ones in Flushing. If I have to pick one, there is one called Antigons. It's on 14th Street and 6th Avenue, and they have some northern dishes if anyone ever wants to try it.
Perfect. Before you started your company, the Chi, you had another life in another aesthetically pleasing industry. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Totally. I started out my career in fashion, actually, and I worked in fashion for well over 10 years. I started in marketing, then I went into sales, and then I was like, I actually have always wanted to do design. So by way of Parsons, that's how I moved to New York. And then after Parsons, I had two knitwear accessories brand because I was really obsessed with sustainable fashion at the time. And after that, I was just burned out. I was very burned out and I didn't want to do fashion anymore. And of course, growing up in Asia, tea was just very much part of my childhood. And I just have these like incredibly fond memories of having it with my grandma. I also grew up as a single mom, so like tea time with my grandma was like really special for me.
That's so beautiful. Most tea is consumed by drinking leaves.
Yep.
Why did you want to start a company where you drink flowers for tea?
Yeah, it was definitely a happy accident because I didn't exactly set out to start a single origin whole flower teas per se. So when I was burned out from fashion, I thought maybe I can create a really high quality pu'er tea brand. So I took a trip to Yunnan, which is the home to pu'er. It's kind of like champagne. True champagne can come from Champagne. So pu'er can only come from Yunnan, which is these like ancient trees that are big leaf teas. The first day I was there, I met a lady, and they have these just huge, they call them like tea villages. And truly, they're just like...
Everyone's working in tea.
Yeah, everybody, so many people. This one little shop, it was May, so it was actually just rose harvest season. And she had rose teas. And she made me a pot. She brewed a pot. It was just like the most beautiful experience I've ever had. Yeah. And that was the first time I've ever tried anything like it in terms of flowers. And I still did this whole trip of almost 2 weeks that I planned visiting all these different mountains. In Yunnan, they have these, what they call it, legacy mountains, which are the mountains that produce teas that used to be tributes for the royal family. And they command a very handsome price for tea. I always compare it to wine because I think in particular houses, right, or chateaus, like you have these like really beautiful wine that they call for a different price point compared to things that come from maybe other places that you don't know where it comes from. Anyway, so I did my whole tour still, and then when I came back to New York, I just couldn't stop thinking about this rose tea I had there. So the rest is history. I was like, I probably want to
start a brand.
Yeah, let me try this thing because I think, at the time I was starting to see more single origin tea brands, but I didn't know anybody who's highlighting flowers.
Are flowers something that have just been a part of ancient traditions for a while? And are you one of the first brands that's really putting that on the scene? Or have there been other flower-based tea brands that have been out there?
Yeah, that's a great question. Flowers have been around for
ever.
Ever. We don't take credit. We don't claim like, we invented flowers or anything like that. But I think it's fascinating because in traditional Chinese medicine or TCM, one of the flowers we offer is a royal chrysanthemum. It's a super herb. So it's used in TCM for thousands of years. It's also originated from China, chrysanthemum. But other flowers, like for example, rose, right? Rose, I think you can find in many different countries and many different regions. But different regions have different varietals of roses and some slight, in terms of aroma or tasting notes. And just like coffee, right? Like coffee has different varieties. Depending where you get it from, the flavors and all those things are different. Your other question was, who else? Do I know anybody? I think there are tea brands that offer petals in their blends. But as far as I know, we're the only brand here in the U.S. that's specializing only whole flowers. We don't offer green teas, we don't offer black teas or anything like that. But I know there are more popular brands that just have lots of different blends.
Yeah, it's like there's dried flowers. There's
petals, which is much more popular, or bits of petals, herbal blend that I've seen more commonly available.
Your brand is so beautiful and aesthetically pleasing. It's very soothing, even if you're not a tea drinker. I mean, I am. I feel like my family grew up with like the British influence of tea. So I feel like tea at night, tea in the morning. We're more a tea family than a coffee family. But I want to ask, when you were designing the brand, how did your fashion experience and design come into play to help create the aesthetic for the brand?
Yeah. No, thank you so much. That is so kind. Yeah, it definitely benefited a lot from my fashion background, I think, because also their flowers are just so beautiful. So what I tried to do was just highlighting the ingredients, like the flowers themselves, and I tried to take other things out of it and really just figuring out, okay, how do I just honor what's in the product, like what's the actual product, but on the packaging itself, which to be honest has been a journey. We changed if you've been following us for a while, you might know we changed our packaging so many times. Yeah.
Why was that?
A few different reasons, but mainly because we had a hard time figuring out what to even call it. So there's a French name called tisane, which means botanical infusion, which is a more accurate description of the flowers, because technically speaking, flowers are not true teas, right? Like true teas are only from this
leaves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The leaves of a plant called Camellia sinensis. Those are true teas, and those are green teas, right? Your black teas, your red teas, your white teas. Flowers are herbs. I think in America, it's more popular term for herbal, right? Herbal tea. So we're like, oh, we want to call it tisane, but then no one knew what that was. If you see it on the shelf, people didn't know what it was, which was a issue.
Yeah.
If they don't know what's in the box. And then we're like, okay, maybe we should call it herbal tea because everyone understands that. But then it doesn't justify the flowers because they're so beautiful. All of our flowers are not only single origin, they're 100% hand-picked. They're whole. They're not like petals that mix with other things, which are more traditionally herbal teas, is what people call them. That's why we changed packagings, because the names and also like design elements.
Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Today's show is presented by Walmart, the world's largest retailer. So many people in this country depend on Walmart for its groceries and trust Walmart to have high-quality food at affordable prices. That sounds like the future to me, and the present. Walmart is always listening to its customers and values the feedback received about new products and flavors. To help meet and exceed customer expectations, Walmart employs a range of experts, like classically trained chefs, in vital roles within the company. I love knowing that. Another thing I love about Walmart is how many interesting new food brands can be found there. Female and Black-owned brands in particular, such as Partake Foods, vegan and gluten-free cookies, baking mixes, and snack packs founded by Denise Woodard. And Iya Foods, which has gluten-free baking mixes, spice mixes, and whole food powders, and was started by Toyin Kolawole. If you're a founder of a CPG brand and would like to work with Walmart, you need to know about Walmart's Open Call. 2023 will be the 10th anniversary of Walmart's Open Call event. It's an exciting and unique opportunity for entrepreneurs to meet face-to-face with Walmart merchants at the largest sourcing event in the United States. This year's Open Call will be in Bentonville, Arkansas, on October 24th and 25th. Registration starts this July. If you are a future retail star, stay tuned for more details. And now, back to our guest. So you mentioned earlier that you have incorporated some methods of traditional Chinese medicine. Why was that important in developing the brand and developing the mission behind the tea company?
Yeah. At the time when I was really burned out from fashion, I started practicing Qigong and taking Qigong classes. So Qi in Qigong, Qi means life energy. It's the same spelling as CHI, which I think is more of American spelling, but it means the same thing, QI or CHI. It means life energy or life force, and it encompasses of all the entire living entity in the universe. So if you can imagine like how big the representation of such a small word is. And in Eastern philosophy also, along with that, is that when plants bloom, the flower is actually the fruit of this peak energy, qi. Isn't it beautiful?
I have chills. Yeah.
So when I learned that, I was like, I might want to start a company called The Chi and specialize in flowers, flowering that are super herbs that you can drink and eat. And it just felt like a whole circle moment. But also, most people don't know what that word means. So we do a lot of education or sharing information about it. But I think it's such a beautiful concept, especially nowadays. I think more and more people are aware and into holistic wellness and taking care of ourselves. And food is medicine.
Food is healing. It's
Yeah.
love. It's the universal language of care, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I really love how you are able to educate your customers on supply chain practices and really going behind the scenes on what you're doing. I feel like, especially in North America, we are so used to just like going on the shelves and seeing something, but it's nice to know what's going on behind the scenes. Why did you think it was important to educate your customers not just on this new trend, but also how you're able to keep this trend going and how you're able to keep this trend sustainable?
It was very intentional. I wanted to honor and pay homage where the flowers come from and wanted to share the people behind the product also, like who actually grows them. So if you have seen our website, we have a supply chain sourcing map. So we tell you exactly where they come from. So I think a lot of times, just as a consumer myself, I think it's really nice. I want to know where my stuff comes from, right? More importantly, who are the people behind it? Who am I supporting by buying this cup? Being a immigrant, a person of color, and female, I want to support more people who might not have access to like more resources or things like that. So I thought it was just important to showcase who we are, what we care about, which so much of it is community, right? Like not only the people that we get the flowers from, which are small family farms all across Asia, but also local New York people. Like we do a ton of donation, in kind or like monetary or events.
What organizations are you supporting?
A few that I can think of right off the top of my head is one, it's Kava, and Heart of Dinner is another
Yes,
big one.
that's a
Yeah,
great
you'll have heard of. Yeah,
organization.
there is also Apex, which we're also donating. It's
That's
like
Apex for Youth, right?
yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah, I think also it's been definitely really tough to see a lot of xenophobic hatred towards Asian American communities, especially in New York. So I think it's really awesome that you're using your brand as a vessel to be able to share hope and share support. And knowing that people are buying the Chi, then they're supporting, one, an Asian-owned business, but also that money is going further to supporting and uplifting those communities. So that's really admirable.
And because the flowers themselves, right? I think
Yeah.
flowers in general represent love and hope, right?
Absolutely.
So I feel like it's our, like we have to do it. Like it's our job because we sell this product that inherently that's what it represents. And we
Yeah.
want to honor the product itself.
I think that's so beautiful. Just going back to supply chains for a second, it's so fascinating to me when people start companies just out of ideas, but then have to get down to the nitty-gritty of you are shipping tea across the world
Yep.
to get into our cups and into our hearts. How do you think about the process of finding manufacturers that, one, allow you to meet the rigorous food standards, but also allow you to still have your vision for creating an experience that people can love?
Yeah, it was definitely not easy. It took me, I think, almost 2 years visiting the farms. On my first trip, I met the lady who has the rose farm. I have gone back twice. They do it differently. I think when you really care about where you're growing, things taste different. You know,
Totally.
there's like love inside.
Mm-hmm.
And we work with a small co-packer that gets it from the farm and they pack them and then we get it. And that's it. We don't work with middlemen. I mean, I feel very lucky because I speak the language a lot of times. Otherwise, it would be even more challenging because the farmers don't speak English.
Mandarin. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's really cool. Now let's talk about the nitty-gritty of the business. So you bootstrapped this company, which is really impressive. What made you decide to go in that direction?
To be honest, I think for a long time, I just had this narrative that didn't really serve me, quite frankly. It was a narrative of, I am not a Ivy League white male, where I'm like, who's going to give me money? You know, I also grew up as a single mom, so I felt like my only way to do it was bootstrapping. And that's what I did, and it's fine. But honestly, like, that was the narrative I was telling myself. I'm like, but now looking back, I think just like anything, there are pros and cons to everything in life, and things happen for a reason. And I'm really glad I did that because it really allowed me to be really resourceful and scrappy and creative.
Totally.
Now looking back, seeing how many companies that didn't work out just because they raised so much money. So I feel like, things are always working out in one way or another.
I mean, the plus side to being bootstrap is you have more control of your company. You have more decisions that you're able to make. So even though it's definitely hard to get consistent flowing capital, you still have the control to make decisions. And I think that's the tough part, being a founder of everything always comes with them some semblance of an opportunity.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
And I think the other side of the same coin is basically I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. I didn't want to take on money and having people tell me only like the bottom line or grow at all costs was the end of all mission. That's not why I started. Like I didn't want to turn the company into something like that. I wanted to do creative things. I wanted to do collaborations. Sometimes it's okay if I didn't make money on things because I really care about this cause. And I don't know how they would feel about things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was reading this article that you did in The Cut, and you said something awesome about how you almost kind of see this as a hobby because you've poured so much love into it. That's really fascinating because I think especially in our society, North American society, it's like if you're starting a company, you're giving it your all, you're working hard, you're hustling. But it's beautiful that you're really thinking about how to create joy and still get your work done, but not feel that drive to feel like you're going overboard. Also, considering you're running a wellness company, you have to be able to feel good to sell what you're selling, right?
No, thank you for bringing that up. I feel like that's such a huge topic, right? Especially here in New York. I think so much of what success means or, from traditional media has been about hustling or once you hit whatever X amount of sales or hit fill in the blank, right? Whatever that is, right? And then you can be successful and then you can be happy and then you can do all these things. Something I've been doing my best to practice is really just like, I can be happy now. I don't need to be a $1 billion company to be happy. I can still be happy when I get there someday, but I don't need to be there in a year or 5 years. I will get there when I get there, and I can be happy and do everything I want to do today.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Who do you consider to be the ideal customer for the Chi?
I think it's just a person who wants more joy and nourishment and inner peace in life, basically. And I think everyone can use a little bit of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. How do you hope that people can incorporate the Chi and the flower teas into their routines?
So the flowers are very simple as a tea. You pour boiling hot water over flour in a vessel, let it steep for about 3 to 5 minutes. And that's a very beautiful ritual you can do on a daily basis. And just having a moment for yourself, take a deep breath in and feel more grounded. That's one way. That's also very joyful. And flowers can also be more about celebration, right? So like sometimes I think of cocktails or wine where people always associate celebration or relaxation and wine after a long day. Flower teas can do the same thing for you. You can have it hot, you can have it chilled. On top of that, because they're edible, you can use it in culinary.
And edible flowers are the rage these days.
These days, right? They're everywhere.
And they're so hard to find. So I guess this is a good substitute for any bakers or food people that love their flowers listening.
Take the petals off the flowers or use our petit flowers. You can use it in cookies, in cakes, in all your culinary endeavors.
I love that. Obviously, tea drinking is something you're definitely an expert at. What are 1 or 2 hacks that you think people can start doing to make their tea experiences much more joyful and also make their tea taste better? Because it's not just about how you pour the water, how long you let it steep. There's all these different parts that make tea taste so much better than just dumping water in a cup.
Yeah, I think the first thing is giving yourself time. I think one thing we all feel like we want more of is like more time. But I think we all can have 10 minutes in a day. It's not that much. You can have 10 minutes to yourself. That's not that much to ask. And really just give yourself that 10 minutes. Take your time, boil the hot water, pour it at the right temperature over a flower, wait for it to steep for 3 to 5 minutes, and then enjoy it. Just having that full 10 minutes to yourself will make the world of difference versus rushing it. Like, got a cup, you're like, gotta go. And then you're not really fully enjoying the moment. And that could be anything, really.
Are there 3 gadgets or items that you would consider if you really want to get into tea, these are the things that would make the most out of that experience?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think having a kettle that has temperature setting can be very, very helpful. So if you're just getting into tea or a tea connoisseur, depending on the type of tea, they like different temperatures. So for example, the flowers are a little bit more forgiving because they're herbs. You can cook with them, eat the petals. They don't get bitter over time if you oversteep. But I think having a kettle that has different temperature is really helpful. Mm-hmm. The other thing is having some kind of vessel, ideally glass, so you can see whether it's like loose leaf tea or flowers or other things. Know what you're drinking, like something transparent. You can really tell the quality of your liqueur color, how cloudy it is, how clear it is, like all these things which allows you to really appreciate what you're having. So some kind of vessel. So you want a vessel allow everything to bloom or expand.
So you can just put the petals right in the water. Like you don't have to put it through a little strainer or any of that type of stuff?
Well, with our flower, because it's whole, you can, yeah. I know there are vessels that has a little like filter thing. So you can put it in the filter. So it still has lots of room for it to expand.
Not only your D2C brand, but you're also in stores. I feel like something that's so interesting for CPG companies is I'm always curious to hear when it came to pitching stores or marketplaces to sell the chi, what were some of the unique tactics that you were using to get them to buy orders? Because that's super important to your growth.
Absolutely. I think understanding who you're talking to is probably the most important thing. Just like knowing who your audience are and craft your story around that pitch in terms of what you think would benefit them, right? Because buyers are busy and they care about, okay, what are you bringing to the table? How is this going to benefit our customers or us? Just knowing who you're talking to.
Are there any dream stores or places that you would love to see the chi in the next few years?
Yeah,
we love
definitely.
To manifest. We love to manifest on the podcast. So
absolutely. Yeah. That's a good question. Honestly, I think about this quite a bit. I would love to do hospitality, like hotel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, do like collaborations, do something completely custom for hotels, like the One Hotel, Aman. Like
I was just thinking Aman. I feel like the Aman Giri just fits fits your aesthetic.
Hey, Aman, if you're listening, please hit me up.
If anyone's Aman's out there, we've got some tea for you.
Yeah. So I think anywhere that really cares about having a beautiful experience, like sensory, whether it's like things you're seeing, things you're tasting, things you are touching, like sensory experience, which is what we really care about deeply. Being in the moment, and what does that really mean? It's like fully experience of all of your senses.
Yeah. So you have your blog, Flower Tea 101, where you share the intricacies of the history of flower teas and all that. But you also have Flower Person Interview, where you interview creatives and people just about their stories and their experiences with flowers and their relationship to wellness. Do you also have any dream people for the blog or dream people that you would love to see try your tea?
Joanna Gaines.
Oh my gosh. Well, she was just at...
I know. She was just
at that Jubilee conference.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's so awesome. You also do a lot of partnerships. So I feel like you've just done a partnership with Sunday School, which is one of my favorite brands.
Oh, cool.
What's your philosophy behind partnerships as a way to leverage growth for the company?
I love partnerships so much. Being a small business and bootstrapping, I feel like doing partnerships that make sense is such a joyful way to grow. Tapping into each other's audiences and creating something completely new and different and having that special something. It's really, really fun.
Are there any bucket list partnerships or any exciting ones that you can tell us about?
Oh, I love all these questions.
Good. Yeah.
I definitely want to do some kind of edible flower, confetti edible flower with a pastry chef. So if anybody out there who wants to collab on an edible flower product, let me know. I would love to collaborate with like a pastry chef.
I'm really curious to hear how you think about the chi in the conversation of wellness and where you hope it's adding to the conversation, because I feel like in the last few years, we have seen another resurgence in wellness, We're more mindful with our meditation. We're more into yoga, if anything. But there's also a lot of speculation and claims that are shrouded in a lot of toxicity, but are still presented as wellness tactics.
Yeah, totally. I think one thing I can think of is just the dieting culture. I don't know if you would consider that as part of the wellness culture, but I do see lots of things or people talking about, I don't know, maybe these are old now. Maybe people don't do these anymore, like paleo, like all these things that maybe used to be popular. But just personally, my philosophy has always been just being mindful of what you're eating. I think it is important, understanding what food items you're having. But I think it's really simple. It doesn't have to be so complicated. I just do this myself sometimes. Like, if I want a cookie or I want ice cream, I don't feel guilty about it. I let myself enjoy it. I don't have it every single day, but when I do have it, I let myself enjoy it. And I think it's okay to appreciate sweets, which brings me back to TCM. In traditional Chinese medicine, each taste is actually correlated to a particular organ, a particular season.
So, oh, wow.
Yeah.
So like the 5 elements, the 5
exactly,
organs. That's beautiful.
5 elements, they call it 5-element framework. Mm-hmm. So for example, like sour is actually the taste of spring, and it's correlated to green. It's all connected. So if you're craving for sweets, it means one of your organs that's correlated to that taste is asking for support. And the emotion, I think, with sweet is like stress. And you're like, that makes so much sense. Like, people are always so stressed out, and like we're gravitating for sugary things or sweet things.
To heal ourselves.
To heal, exactly. It's like your internal organ is literally asking for help me, like support me in different ways. But sweets doesn't have to be from like, sugary things. It can be a piece of fruit like pineapple. That's super sweet. That's good for you.
And it's nature. It's healthy.
Exactly. Yeah. Anything that's from nature, it's not made in a lab. I say go for it. Enjoy it. Things that are like whole and from nature.
If you were to have this conversation again in 5 years, where do you hope to see the Qi going?
5 years from now, I just hope we're bigger. I hope we get to tell our stories louder, where more people are aware of this flower as an alternative or as an option where you can enjoy on a daily basis to whatever you're enjoying. Just knowing that this exists and is an option that can bring you joy and nourishment and giving it a try is very much our mission. Like, we want the world to be drinking flowers and eating flowers. 5 years, I would love to be in more distribution places where people can access it and having our own maybe tasting cafes.
Oh, so cool.
Like floral blooming cafes where we show you how to have more access to events, which was something you were saying earlier, which struck a chord for me as well. It's about connection, right? Like connecting with yourself when you're having that moment by yourself and connecting with other people, like communal things and classes. We're doing a non-alcoholic mixology class, but like things like that. People can come together to gather, to learn, to connect in a safe and beautiful space where you can be seen and just feel really alive with people that care about the same things is ultimately our mission. And of course, more flowers, the merrier.
No, I think that's beautiful. I mean, just to touch on the non-alcoholic mixer, which sounds exciting, I also think we are thinking much more critically about how our events and our gatherings are not alcohol for it, but really allow people to harness and understand community. So obviously you want something refreshing to drink. The lemonade that you had at the Cherry Bomb Jubilee was tasty and amazing. And it's like, how cool to be just like gather over a nice punch bowl of lemonade instead of a drink or a cocktail or something like that. While those are great, people are looking for more non-alcoholic options. This is definitely a refreshing take as well. How do you find moments of joy as a founder who's dealing with all the stress? And what advice do you have for someone who's currently feeling that burnout and wanting to make a change or a transition in their lives?
It's important to know that you have the power to take control of your own life. I know sometimes when you're deep in a rabbit hole, you feel things are just so out of your control. But if you take a step back, you actually can make a lot of choices in what you decide to do. So like number 1 is like knowing that you have choices. And number 2 is take naps. I'm a huge person with naps because the naps are gifts from the universe. You take a 15-minute nap, you just feel so much better. Instead of like running out, grabbing an espresso double shot, like give yourself a break. Just take a 15-20 minute nap. Trust me, your body's gonna thank you later. Like if you down something that's like an energy drink, you're already tired. You're overworking your insides trying to wake up. But why not give yourself the permission to actually take a break and rest? And it's okay to rest. I think we're all constantly in this culture of like productivity. But I think if you take a break, it actually allows you to see things differently. Your creativity, your intuition can come through versus you're just like plowing away in action, but none of that can come through when you're so deep inside doing something.
That's really beautiful. Yeah. Well, Lisa, we're about to do our fun Future of Food is You tradition called our Future Flash 5. Are you ready?
Got it. Let's do it.
Okay. Amazing. The future of tea.
Flowers.
The future of meditation.
Rest.
The future of wellness.
Flowers.
The future of female founders.
Me.
And finally, the future of traditional Chinese medicine.
We're all connected.
That's beautiful. Lisa, if we want to continue to support you and follow your journey, where are the best places to find you?
You can find me personally on Instagram, The Better Lisa, or Drink the Chi.
Amazing. Thanks so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Before we go, our guest is going to leave a voicemail at the Future of Food mailbox, just talking to themselves 10 years from now. You have reached the Future of Food is You mailbox. Please leave your message after the beep.
Hey girl, how are you today in the year of 2033? I hope you're living somewhere warm and sunny with a stunning garden. I hope you're surrounded by people that are creative, funny, uplifting, kind, and loving. I hope you're still having the time of your life, doing all the things that make you feel alive, will bring that big flower energy. I hope you continue to nap every day. I hope you have traveled to more faraway places and have made many more new friends there. I hope you're still creating new worlds and building empires. I hope you're doing it all with ease and joy. I hope you still look at the world in wonder, think that everything is just pure magic. I hope you're still foolish and still hungry. My friend, I love you with all of my heart, always and forever.
That's it for today's show. Do you know someone who you think is the future of food? Tell us about them. Nominate them at the link in our show notes or leave us a rating and review and tell me about them in the review. I can't wait to read more about them. Thanks to Kerry Gold and Walmart for supporting the show. The Future of Food is You is a production of the Cherry Bomb Podcast Network. Thanks to the team at CityVox Studios, executive producers Carrie Diamond and Catherine Baker, and associate producer Jenna Sadhu. Catch you on the Future Flip.